Put on a suit. Drink water. Don't drink and drive.
Game over!
Take it light. Okay.
Now you're more fluent.
Akala, he's got three!
Up, Bears.
So this is really good right here. Absolutely. Let's do it.
Good evening, Toronto Maple Leaf fans. Happy Wednesday to everybody tuning in. Here with me, as always, co-host Caroline. Welcome, Caroline. How we doing?
Doing pretty well, thanks. How are you doing over there?
Terrific. You guys may have noticed, for the audience who will be tuning in during the live recording and maybe after we're already off the air, that we're doing kind of, I wouldn't call it a debut, more of a relaunch. So the same two faces will be coming your way every Wednesday at 9 p.m. But Caroline is going to kind of talk through a little bit of a kind of rebranding we're doing. Very exciting stuff. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Caroline to describe what we got going on.
So I was kind of pushing Josh to think of a name that really differed from sort of the pack of Leafs podcasts, Leafs content that's in the marketplace. And we saw a lot of like Leafs Lunch, Leafs podcasts, Leafs Talk, Leafs Report. And so we wanted to be a little different, and we went with Leafs Unfiltered as our name. And the idea is that we're kind of giving you the real news without the gloss of Toronto media, without the political angle. And the concept is that we're just kind of being straight shooting, hardened Leafs fans that are going to deliver our truths, and we don't have to say, we don't have to hear to anyone. So that was our thinking behind Leafs Unfiltered. Wanted to be a little different, wanted to have a little bit of a flashier image. And I'm glad that Josh was okay with this direction. So thanks for that.
Yeah, you really didn't have to convince me too much. I think we were kind of on the same page, really aligned into how we wanted to approach things going forward. And I think we got off to a great start. This is basically, I guess, our third episode together now. I believe it's 3, right? 3?
Yeah, I think so. 3.
Yeah. So it's obviously still very fresh, but I think we have a good thing going. And I think we have great appeal to the Leaf fans out there that, and I don't think we're suggesting that we're going to be that much different from everything else that's out there. But I think where we can be different is, as Caroline alluded to, kind of just having more of that no fluff, no filter, might say unfiltered, just kind of delivery of Leaf news and entertainment. We know there's a lot of great content out there for Leaf fans to watch or listen to, podcasts, live to air on TSN Sportsnet. But we do think we have a different angle here, a little bit different approach to how we look at either Leaf news, Leaf activity, player activity, off-ice interactions with the players and the teams. I think we just have great perspective that I feel is relatable, right? I think, as you said, hardened Leaf fans, there's a lot of us in the city and throughout the country even that, rightfully are fed up with what we've seen, product on the ice, mismanagement of the team, ownership that, everyone's going to say is driven solely by profits, less about winning. So I think there's enough that we can kind of bring to this 1-hour episode every week, and then probably even make it a couple times a week once the season gets going and we've got more to talk about. But I think that's kind of where we're coming from. I'm just trying to be very candid, very in your face about what we're going to be either critical of or complimentary of. And I think that should be a refreshing vibe for Leaf fans.
Agreed. And would you not say we've come out of a really slow hockey and sports news week?
Yeah, very dry, especially if you've been watching, whether it's Wimbledon, whether it was Euro Cup, Copa America, not a lot going on.
Not even baseball right now.
Well, yeah, they've had the All-Star game, but I can never really get into that.
No.
But now there's not much going on.
No.
So whoever wants to make a trade in the NHL, I can promise you're going to be front page because
That's
there ain't
good.
anything going on.
Luckily, we've got the Open Championship teeing off tomorrow morning. So
Correct.
that will bring us through to the weekend.
Yeah,
But-
we do have a little bit of golf, that's for sure.
But
we need hockey news. We need hockey news.
We do.
That's what we're here for. Yeah.
Yeah. We had the Marner Assist or Marner Foundation event this past weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, good that you reminded me because I was thinking about that earlier today, but I kind of just forgot about it when we jumped on here. But yeah, that's probably a good place to begin.
Yeah.
Just obviously a phenomenal event that Mitch Marner has put on. I think this was number 6 for him.
I think so.
2-day event in the city. Couple big names. Current teammates Max Domi, John Tavares, Joseph Wall, among a few others were in attendance. But since we are episode 1 of Leafs Unfiltered, I personally think the best way to begin without kind of talking about the obvious, that it's a great foundation, great event, brings together the community, gets a lot of teams enrolled and all of that, all very great stuff. Yeah. But most importantly, what we want to talk about, I believe, is Mitch Marner doing the hard ban on media, didn't want TSN, Sportsnet around, basically had told, or not basically, he did tell all the media to refrain from any Maple Leaf team related questions. It was not even, and it was obviously a very proactive maneuver by him and his, I guess, camp, his agent, whoever, to not even have those questions posed. He wasn't even going to deflect. He wasn't going to be like, yeah, with all due respect, guys, I'm here to promote my event. Appreciate where wasn't even going to do that. It was before the event began. He already let people know, no Leaf questions, please. And that's what we saw.
Another thing that I heard is that he rolled back the red carpet. So in every event prior to this that was eligible for a red carpet within COVID protocols, he didn't even create the red carpet. So I think that there's some, hidden messages in these actions that he's taken. He said no to mainstream media, no red carpet. He doesn't want to talk. He doesn't even want to start a conversation right now.
And I'm actually glad that you feel the way, because that's exactly kind of where I was coming from. And even just seeing on my timeline on Twitter, you kind of got a lot of backlash. If you even suggested, there was a couple Leaf media beat writers who were like, just kind of mentioning that it felt a little bit weird that Mitch Marner didn't permit, like, the hockey news wasn't even allowed to ask any questions. Like, it was just, it was obviously very premeditated and very strategic, to your point, that he didn't want the media and he didn't want those type of questions coming his way.
Yeah.
I feel the same way, but it seems like a lot of people were like, well, hold on. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with what he did there. He wanted the focus to be on the event. He doesn't want to deal with all the, the questions and the third degree on everything. But where I found that to be a little bit of a flawed perspective or flawed rebuttal is that every year prior in the event, he did welcome all the media. He did have people asking him questions. And you see when, whether it's a Morgan Riley, a John Tavares, I think even Leon Draisaitl, who is in kind of the same position as Mitch Marner, in unsigned free agent next year. So still able to sign a contract extension right now as of July 1st. And he was answering questions about what's going on with the contract. How do you like Edmonton? Do you want to be here long term? So Mitch Marner clearly was doing something unexpected and different, right?
A little different. And I think that really goes within this narrative of, is he happy in this Toronto fishbowl can? Is he cut out for a marketplace like Toronto, where this is actually the fanfare that has developed around the Marner Foundation event is a byproduct of him being a Toronto Maple Leaf.
Totally.
So if he's not able to kind of even entertain media inquiries, even, I think that it shows, one, that he's got a foot out the door, or two, really a market like this is not what he's going to thrive in.
Yeah.
And I think that this is a very interesting little tidbit of news that we did get this week, Josh, that he didn't allow the media. That to me, that says a lot.
Right. Well, and I get it if he wanted the focus to be on the event, but my counter to that is, what would be better to promote your event than having TSN, Sportsnet, the hockey news? Like those, you would have your event blasted on, the major networks in Canada. I mean, at least with the local coverage in the city, that could only help. So clearly it was not about him wanting, I only want to promote my event in these 2 days. I don't want anyone else there. But you could have still had TSN and Sportsnet there, and at least you would have got a little bit more press, a little bit more coverage.
I know.
Right? And so that was very weird too.
Absolutely. And in the years past, I understand that the mandate for those mainstream media attendees, Sportsnet, TSN, they had to put out a 3-minute promo package about the event. So that was kind of something that they would have to work into whatever content they're putting out. And that's a big takeaway. Like if he's able to get that 3 minutes showing on the national networks that they occupy, like you're going to be hitting a lot of wallets that could potentially give to your event. So I really don't know what to say about why he did this, but he also did a 30-day period this year during the Leafs regular season where he also said no to a media availability.
Yep.
So
he's absolutely shying away from the media. And I think you called it out exactly how I think it needs to be. It just does feel like he has gotten tired of it. He's gotten tired of the attention, the criticism, the questioning of his performance, his commitment to both team and, I don't know, the game based on some subpar playoff performances. And, you don't want to make too many assumptions, but it just feels like his personality really isn't cut out for this market. And look, he's not the only one. There's probably a ton of hockey players and, that wouldn't survive in Toronto, but it kind of goes with the territory. All the good things, all the positives about being a Toronto Maple Leaf, there obviously are those extra commitments that the Marners, the Matthews, the Tavares, the Riley, the Nylanders will always have to do. The Sheldon Keefe Pryor, Brad Treliving, Kyle Dubas, they all have more media commitments and expectations than probably any of the other 31 teams,
This is a bit of a segue, but I was watching the Jays were playing the Diamondbacks in a 3-game series last weekend. And I was wondering, is Austin going to be in any of these games? Like, is he going to show up? The guy's been summering in Arizona, and
as always,
sure enough, I watched all those 3 games again. There's not a lot of sports on, and no Austin Matthews. So
I mean, with the way the Blue Jays are playing, can you really blame them?
I can't blame him, but I think if that were his opportunity to interact with Toronto sports media, to sort of get in the faces of fans of sport in Toronto, that would have been an easy way to have to take that PR invite from the Diamondbacks, show up. And no, he wasn't there. Mitch hasn't spoken since, I guess, locker clean out day for the Maple Leafs, which was...
I believe so. Up until the Marner Foundation, I think he had gone cold. I mean, maybe not that crazy, given that there hasn't been much going on, not too many events. But, I mean, we haven't heard from any of the guys really since locker clean out. But, obviously he's not... he had an opportunity to really kind of explain where he's at, where he wants to be, and he chose to pass on it. He chose to go no comment, go radio silence, because either he was or his camp was terrified of what he might say. And
Josh, what are they going to ask?
Clearly he's not a great speaker, so I get his camp maybe not being confident with what he might say if he's pressed on, hey, do you want to be a Maple Leaf for the rest of your career?
Are you maybe referring to that God's comment that he made?
That would be an example that would probably back up my my point there for sure. But like, he's always just very, very like defensive in front of the media. Like everything with him is like
he's combative.
Very combative. That's the right word. Like if they ask him like, so how do you think you guys played? Are you worried about the team's performance not being where it needs to be? You always get something like, no, we actually think we're fine. Yeah, we think we're great.
Absolutely,
we think we're playing great.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, you just lost 5 games in a row.
Anyway, remember he went through that part this year?
Oh yeah, I think that was when he said he's not even on social media. He doesn't even check anything that's written about him or the team. Yeah. But then when he had his injury, when he was not playing, they asked him about it. And he's like, I hear you guys all speculating on what the injury is. Like, well, how would you know that then?
That's their day job. That's the day job of the people in Toronto media to do so. But I just going back to the Marner Foundation event, aside from how our contact track talks going, Mitch, have you heard of any, anything that's in the works? All he needed to say was, my agent's on it. I want to be a Toronto Maple Leaf.
Sure, for sure.
Which is looking more and more likely that he will be a Toronto Maple Leaf come October. But they're not going to get him up there. He's not on trial. He's not under oath. They're not cross-examining him.
He thinks he is, but yeah.
I know. And I think
he feels that way.
Which might speak volumes about what his position is right now with regards to contract talks.
Right.
But if he's not even entertaining these media opportunities, not being available to have these sort of candid, even small admissions of what's going on, I don't think he's in a contract extension position.
Right. Yeah, and not in that frame of mind where he can't wait to extend his contract and be a Leaf forever. And for me, the question I've got with how Mitch Marner approached his foundation event and kind of the, preventing a media accessing the event or asking him questions, what does he think is going to happen first day of Maple Leaf training camp, middle of September? Is he thinking he's going to hide? That they won't find him? You might be able to bypass them day one. Okay, John, Morgan, Austin, Willie, you handle it today. But by day 2 or day 3, if he hasn't talked yet as an assistant captain of the team, one of the longest serving Maple Leafs outside of Riley, where are you going, kid? Where are you going? You're going to have to talk. So,
I almost think they need to have some behind doors conversations between Marner and the mainstream media in Toronto, because clearly something has tweaked a nerve with him. And I understand this happened with Connor McDavid in Edmonton this year, is that some of the narratives that were being written about McDavid was unsavory to McDavid. And one of the key reporters out of the Edmonton group, I forget who it was.
Has to be Mark Spector.
I think it was Mark Spector.
Yeah. He's the one guy that when you ever see an Oilers press conference, if there's a question that the players look at him and be like, really, dude? You're really asking me that question? I think Leon Draisaitl has blown his top on Mark Spector no fewer than 20 times.
I love Leon Draisaitl's interviews. He is so straight up. But
deadpan. Oh. Where?
Oh,
you're back.
Hey,
you decided to leave the stage in mid-thought.
Well, now, okay, I didn't press anything, but sorry. But I guess what happened after an interview with Spector and McDavid was being a little sheepish, wasn't answering properly. And so one of those two guys asked for some time after the interview, and they just they hashed it out behind closed doors.
I didn't hear about that. Okay.
This was on Leafs Talk like 2 days ago.
No kidding. Okay.
They clearly, there was some takeaways for Edmonton media. Those were dispersed, and McDavid was back his normal gruff self during media.
Okay.
But I think that needs to happen, especially if Mitch is coming back as a Leaf, and we're full steam ahead here. Like, let's show some Leafs fans some confidence. Let's do something, make things. Better.
Yeah, and I think the Leafs' own PR team needs to prep him for the absolute fury that's going to be coming from the media. Because now, I mean, I'm not saying he needed to address all these things at his event. I get it. Like, I think I'm with you. If he was going to be asked those questions, he could have done, taken the easy path and been like, yeah, my agent is handling that. I don't have any update for you. You know, I love being in Toronto. It's where I was born and raised. I'd love to play with the Leafs, or even don't say that. Manage it however you want. But I get that he wouldn't want to go into great detail in the middle of July when he probably doesn't really have much to reveal, right? But training camp, you will have to answer that question. Yeah. And probably a lot more hard ones too, hard questions.
Agreed.
So Leafs PR is going to say, yeah, I mean, as long as we're paying you, basically, we expect you to be out there, get some mic time, and address the questions. We can kind of prep all the media that we'd rather you focus on, what Mitch Marner's looking forward to with this team, what kind of things he's enjoyed about training camp so far. You can maybe ask what's going on with the contract, but any secondary questions or follow-ups, we prefer if you hold those back. Okay. But like beyond that, you can't tell guys like Steve Simmons, David Alter, all these guys who are seasoned Toronto media members to just not ask the tough questions. That's what they're paid to do. And their publication, their either podcasts, their newspapers are going to make sure that they get those questions asked for sure.
Yep, agree. I think he owes it to Toronto at this point a little bit. Like, we're all very on the edge of our seats here, and anything that he puts out there in the media, people are going to devour, reporters and fans alike. So I'm looking forward to his next public statement, but maybe we look at what we have on tap other than poor Marner.
I know. We always seem to extend our Mitch Marner discussions.
I know, it's easy too. It's very easy.
Yeah, it's probably a product of it being July 17th and there really not being too much else going on. But for now, it is obviously the flavor of the month, flavor of the summer. But yeah, so what we were going to do tonight or kind of present our two early season predictions in terms of NHL standings. Yeah. So what I'd like to kind of kick off with first, what I did over here, and Caroline left again. And she's back again.
Okay. Sorry.
No, all good. So the first one I'm going to show, I did 4 tiers. Let me throw it up here.
Yeah.
So 4 tiers of how I kind of see all these teams next year, all 32 teams. The tiers are top to bottom, your cup contending teams, your teams that are good, obviously probably a playoff team, but a couple pieces away. Then you got your wild card contenders, which is the biggest group, as you can see. And then the group you really don't want to be a part of, Caroline, your basement dweller group, where we see some very familiar logos, right?
Oh, yeah. I noticed there was a little shuffling in the basement dwellers from what we would have expected last season, but pretty much the same. Maybe if we're running them down, you could name the teams too, just for an audio audience.
Yeah, totally. So for the cup contenders, that's a good call there. Cup contenders, I've got 5 teams here in really no order. So Dallas, Florida, Edmonton, the Rangers in Colorado. So basically have the final four, the semifinal participants from this past year in there again. So not exactly a hot take by throwing them back in there. I just don't think they've fallen off too much. And then the Avalanche, even though there's some concerns on their cap situation, didn't really do much in free agency. I just have a hard time throwing any kind of shade on the team that I feel probably has the most top-end talent in the league.
Oh, yeah, me too.
I have them there, but I could obviously hear an argument to bump them down. Are you good at those cup contenders?
I'm very good with those cup contenders.
Anyone you'd add or no? Move up, I should say.
No, I truly think that that's what it's going to look like again next season. And maybe for those people that didn't love the playoffs this year, you might not love them again next year. But I am very excited to see the Oilers make their way through the Pacific, which I think is very possible. Once again, make their way through the West. And I think there's a lot of concerns about the Rangers and their ability to be physical and tough and keep up with some of their Eastern Conference opponents. But I think that they're there. Like, yes.
I think it's hard to argue against the goaltending, right? You've got Igor Shesterkin. He's going to keep you in there. They've obviously basically bringing back everyone from last year. I don't think they lost. I'm sure they've lost someone, but definitely not any of the key members of their team. Oh, they added Riley Smith. Added Riley Smith. I think Blake Wheeler will be done. He's a free agent, probably won't be back. So I'd say one, maybe low end top 9 forward, bringing in one other low end top 9 forward. So pretty much status quo for me with them.
Yeah, I think what's more interesting is looking into the teams that you've added to this good but a couple pieces away column.
It's a very wordy tier. As I'm looking at it now, it's very wordy. I probably could have simplified it more.
No, it's good. It's great. I think I'm looking forward to. So take us through who you have in this tier. The second tier.
So this is your good, but are a couple pieces away. I've got Boston, Carolina, Vancouver, Toronto, Nashville, Winnipeg, New Jersey, Vegas, and Tampa Bay.
Oh my God.
Anyone who shouldn't be there.
I couldn't see Tampa Bay.
Yeah, the Tampa Bay logo image I got, not great. Not great.
Well, I know that this isn't in order.
No.
Like in terms of the chips on this line. I like that you've elevated the Devils. I think that would be the only team.
You have to.
You got to. That wouldn't maybe have been there before this free agency period.
Yeah, I think New Jersey and Nashville were the two teams that came up for me.
For sure.
Obviously based on free agency. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say the Jets went down, but they are such high performers in the regular season. Like unfortunately, they should probably be in the cup contending position, but they were not this year and they lost chips. So
yeah, they didn't add anything great. So I had a tough time putting any of those teams like Winnipeg, Vegas, Boston, Carolina, teams that, probably were good enough to be considered a cup contender heading into the postseason this past year.
Yeah.
But aside from like Boston obviously added, but the other teams didn't really. I think Carolina, Vancouver, Winnipeg, Vegas, Tampa, even a little bit, although I guess you can argue Jake Gensel, a little bit of an upgrade, but really not much added to put them into the cup contender tier for me.
No, I think you're completely right on this. It's a slop in this category. That's not the right word, but this is a dense, thick group to get through. It's not like a thin forest to break through to the cup contenders. Like this is some heavy first round matchups, and I'm just, for the Leafs non-performance in the playoffs last several years, like I'm still glad that we're being considered in this tier, but this tier and the tier above is top. So
Well, I mean, yeah, you could say that's a good thing the Leafs are being considered here, but they're being considered by a Leafs podcast. I think there might be some people who will be a little bit less bullish on them, but I don't know. I think when you look at the blue line upgrades and likely the goalie upgrades, you can't really have Toronto not being at least as good as last year.
Look
Like
at
they
all
haven't
the,
really lost anything.
Look at all the East, though. Like, if we're trying to boil down the top two lines here, it's
Yeah,
a lot
the West is a shit show.
Yeah. Like, I'm
Especially
trying
at
to
the
count
bottom.
the top two lines. 1, 2. Okay. 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, you know what? Never mind. It's fairly balanced.
Even. Okay.
It's fairly even.
Like I feel the West is definitely more like top heavy.
I agree.
Like especially when we start getting down to these teams here. Like obviously most of these teams, I guess 4 of the 6 bottom dwellers, which we'll get to in a second here,
Yeah,
are
go ahead.
Western teams.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then our next tier, this is the beefiest one. Most teams are in here. Wild card contenders, old Arizona logo, obviously with now Utah. But we got Utah, Washington, LA, the New York Islanders, Buffalo, Minnesota, Detroit, St. Louis, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and Ottawa.
Like, I'm scared of a lot of those teams.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, if you ask their fan base, a couple of these teams, Ottawa, Buffalo, Detroit, how many years in a row have we heard they're coming? Yeah. They're coming, Leaf fans. Well, they might not be, but maybe finally. Are you really coming? Are you really?
And how close are Pittsburgh and Philadelphia always just like nipping at playoffs? But I would say that, we need to take a little bit more caution this season for the Sabres and the Sens. I think that,
Agreed.
They are both strong franchises that have been left out of the playoffs for too long. And, maybe we don't have that same
the tide has to turn
desire.
Eventually.
What's that?
Eventually, the tide has to turn for them.
It does. It does.
They got to find a way.
It does. I would hope that it's Tampa that slips and makes way for one of those teams.
Yeah.
And I think that's
probably
more
if there's
likely.
One team Sorry, go ahead.
I think Tampa slipping from the Atlantic is more likely than Boston or Toronto slipping. But
agreed.
It's yeah. Ugh.
Yeah, like I think Tampa Bay from that second tier was the one team that I wavered. I kind of waffled a little bit. I could have put them as wild card contender. Perhaps I'm kind of, still kind of in that. Well, Tampa Bay's been an absolute wagon for close to 10 years now. Yeah. You can't count them out. So I think probably that is the main justification for them getting a second tier love, but could have easily been down a notch there.
I think you were somewhat bullish to put New Jersey in that second category.
Oh, really?
Well, they didn't finish anywhere near that.
No, for sure. But I just think they did so many great moves.
For sure.
And obviously they hired the best coach around, right? They got Sheldon Keefe there. So that in itself means that they're going to be taken off. But I think even last year, everyone saw New Jersey as a team that just grossly underachieved.
Underachieved, didn't have goaltending. They've tried to shore that up. But I'm looking at the bottom basement dweller teams here. You can read them aloud before we start.
Sure. So we got the Montreal Canadiens. I love having them first there. That was definitely a strategic play, I have to admit. Chicago, Anaheim, Calgary, Columbus, and San Jose. Are there any of these teams, or you'll probably say they're all fairly placed in the basement dwelling tier, but out of those 6 teams, which one would you say is most likely to get bumped up?
The Blackhawks, for sure.
I would 100% agree. Yeah.
I think they have a high ceiling with what they've done in the offseason, like a high upside that we might not be able to predict. That
I think they did just enough that they could be relevant.
Mm-hmm. I've read some predictions that say that San Jose will not be at the very bottom of the league. They have Anaheim,
I could see
another
it.
California neighbor, slotting in there.
Yeah, like I would probably have, I would almost have Anaheim and maybe Calgary as the bottom two teams. Because I
Good.
feel the Flames are still going to be tearing down a little bit more. I could see them trading a couple other guys, whether they're
Yeah, me
looking
too.
moving Kadri, Blake Coleman, Rasmus Anderson, even Mackenzie Weegar's name has been in rumors. So obviously I have to base this on what they currently have, not what they might do or not
Yeah.
do. But yeah, I could definitely see the Flames dropping even more.
Yeah, that's too bad. They've been having a couple tough years, but they do need to build that new stadium, and in order to do that,
Yeah.
the product that people are going to pay up to go see. So maybe
Yeah.
it's all part of the grand plan.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. Hopefully they can figure out a good way too, because it sounded like at first they weren't going to rebuild, they were going to retool. Now it kind of feels more like a rebuild. It feels like they're going deep into the rebuild. So we'll see.
I think so too. Well,
Okay.
the basement dwellers, unfortunately, guys, this is where you are for many of you in your respective rebuild periods. Both the Habs and the Blackhawks have some assets that will appreciate, but
Up
I
and
don't know.
coming
People
talent.
are really hot, really bullish on the young core of the Habs. I have not shared that sentiment. Those guys, Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki are very small, and I think that's going to hold them back for sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I think Habs fans just keep singing the same song, the same tune about how they feel very confident that, 2-3 years they're going to be a serious contender and maybe even make the playoffs this year. I mean, I don't know. They finished in 8th in the Atlantic Division 3 years in a row.
Oof.
If Caulfield, Suzuki, Sam Montembeault, their goalie, Slavkovsky, if all these guys were good, I know Slavkovsky's only been there for a year and a bit or whatever, but if all those guys were that talented, uber talented,
great point.
Needle moving forwards and a goalie, they wouldn't have finished 8th in the Atlantic. They wouldn't have had fewer wins last year than they had 2 years ago. So I don't know how Habs fans have this confidence that everything's going great according to plan. Well, yeah, you've got some good up and coming prospects. There's no doubt about that. But you've already invested heavily in this current core, and they're still young, but there's no one expecting Caulfield or Suzuki to take a major leap forward. They're good players, no doubt.
Yeah.
They're not elite. They're not needle movers, though.
Well, for the prices they're paying for them, they should probably be moving the needle more than they have. But I agree. I think it's been a wait and see game in Montreal for too long. And it's kind of like, I think we would see signs if this was the core that we're going to take you past this hump. And no, they've been in the basement hump for too long.
Of course, as soon as they hear that talk, you get chirped very quickly with it was 3-1. That wasn't that long ago. It's like,
that's true. But that
in
was
hockey terms, it is that long ago now. It really is.
Know.
A lot's happened since then.
That's true.
Okay.
Well,
so I think we've exhausted that one.
We would love to see you guys, be a little bit more competitive. I hate this discussion that they're our biggest rivals because now never mind. I was listening to a podcast and they put Montreal as our bigger rivals than Boston. And I think that historically, sure, yes, whatever. But right now, the Battle of Toronto and Boston is very exciting. And so I'm waiting for the battle.
Kicked up a notch by obviously playing them in the playoffs. So I would say that's the biggest rival. But yeah, sure. If the Canadians or Sens ever do get back into the playoffs, absolutely. We can have that conversation, but it's been far too long since the Leafs have played a meaningful game with either of those teams. and forget about a playoff series. Like, when was the last time the Leafs and Canadians have played a meaningful hockey game? You'd have to go back to 2021, right?
Well, the
Since then, there
temperature's always
hasn't been.
dialed when you play the Habs at home, the Bell Center.
For sure. For
And the
sure. It's
Leafs
an
love to
exciting game.
underperform. Like, we play down to our opponents. So,
Yep.
I don't know. I feel like our season head-to-head is not super impressive against either the Habs or the Sens.
Well, the Habs, I think they're undefeated against the Habs in the last 2 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The Sens is not good. You're right about that.
Can't say the same for the Columbus Blue Jackets. They're another one of our real tricky numbers.
Yeah, like all these basement-dwelling teams, you could probably easily give each of them a win against Toronto, and it probably wouldn't be that hot of a take. They will find a way. They will play their best game of the year against Toronto.
But to answer your initial question, I think that this is the basement-dwelling crew again. Maybe Chicago can pull it out, but yeah. The league's probably not going to look too much different, I would say, at the end of next season. But
okay. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate the kind of validating. This is kind of throwing some Hail Marys, but put a little bit of thought into it. So I'm glad that I'm not totally off here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's go into the next one here, and this one I want totally you to drive and give me your opinion. It's going to be time for you to give maybe a hot take here on what you think will transpire. So this over here are non-playoff teams from this past year.
Okay.
Give me 4 teams from this group that you think could make the playoffs, most likely from this group.
Okay.
4.
I think we could definitely see the Pittsburgh Penguins making the playoffs.
Okay. Kyle gets back in there.
Uh-huh. I think we could see the New Jersey Devils making the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, the Kraken, I think the Kraken are an interesting team. And
I just realized Seattle was not on my tier rankings for some reason.
Oh, where would you have put it in?
I miss Seattle. They would have gone in wild card contender for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I don't know why I missed them. Apologies there.
No problem. So I'm gonna do 2 from the East, 2 from the West. So I did Pittsburgh Devils and Seattle. I don't know. Where do we go next?
There are some bad teams in there. It's tough.
Yeah, there are some bad teams in there. I guess I'm going to say Wild.
Okay.
Who are your 4 picks?
New Jersey for sure.
Yeah.
I would say I don't like Pitt as much.
Okay.
I like Seattle. I would put Seattle in there. They would probably be a higher kind of tier if I broke down the wild card contenders into multiple tiers. So New Jersey, Seattle, give me Mini as well. And I'll go a little bit off the page here, a team that I'm kind of predicting to get into the postseason, Buffalo. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Who's that going to knock out of the Atlantic?
Like from last year, it could mean
Tampa.
I mean, Atlantic or wild card. Yeah, it could mean Tampa. I mean, obviously the Isles and Washington made it last year. So could they knock either of those teams out for a wild card? Like, I definitely don't think Buffalo is going to be top 3 in the Atlantic. No, but if they're competing against Washington, the Islanders, Pittsburgh, Philly, I could see them finding a way. That's kind of my underdog.
Too. I think, to your point, we need a little bit of a movement in the Atlantic. It's been the same for a long time. So, it could be exciting.
Someone's got to figure it out eventually.
You think they're giving the Leafs like this huge long loan on time.
Totally. Well, and like as we talked about, the Canadians, the contracts that they gave out to their core, Ottawa has invested pretty good money in like Brady Tkachuk, Tim Stützle, Josh Norris. I mean, they aren't paying these guys to not make the playoffs. So, I mean, eventually they've got to find a way in, and Buffalo too. They've got, Rasmus Dahlin, Tage Thompson, Alex Tuck. Like, they've got some high-priced forwards, Dylan Cousins. Like, these guys are paid enough that they should be at least helping the team compete for a playoff spot.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I like that one there. So let's move on to the final round of the way too early prediction exercise. So let's start off with the Western Conference standings. So here's who I've got. I don't know if you had a chance to preview this before. I did look at these. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'm ready to hear your rebuttals, but for the audio only audience, here's what I have for the Western Conference, top to bottom, starting with the conference winners: Edmonton Oilers, number 2, Dallas, 3, Vancouver, 4, Nashville, 5, Colorado, 6, Vegas, 7, Winnipeg, 8, Minnesota. Those would be our playoff teams. Yep. Rounding out the conference, I've got Seattle at 9, LA, St. Louis, Utah, Chicago, Calgary, San Jose, and Anaheim. What do we like? What do we not like?
Well, I like that you've put Anaheim in the basement and the Sharks.
Right, we talked about that earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, I do feel for the Sharks, and I think after this off season, they do deserve to maybe move up a spot. But yeah, no, looking at the top 3, I think that these 3 are an absolute lock. Oilers, Dallas, Canucks. I'm curious to see how the Preds look with their 3 new huge chips. Yeah. Interesting that you put them ahead of the Avalanche.
Yeah. That was kind of a tough one. Colorado, I mean, I know I talked earlier about the high-end talent. They just have some crazy cap problems that they've got to sort through. I'm confident they will. Like, obviously, with Joe Sakic, the front office there, I think they're figuring it out. Yeah. But right now, I just kind of worry about where they're at. And I like Nashville's blue line, goaltending, and even what they've done at the forward spot right now. They are a little bit top heavy, but that top 6 is pretty filthy right now for Nashville.
As a top heavy team, we've not done terribly. We're always first round competitors. So I feel like,
I mean, we've obviously seen here that you can be a top heavy team and it should allow you to at least qualify for the postseason.
And kind of run show in the regular season. Like,
totally.
We definitely rack up the points, the goals. We do fairly well in the Atlantic standings.
That's it. Nice pat on the back for the Maple Leafs. Great job, guys.
Good work, guys. Great job. Good work.
Yeah.
But here, I would have loved to see you be a little bit more ambitious with the Blackhawks. So you put them in at 13 of 16 teams. I wonder if they could start kind of clawing at Utah, the Coyotes, the Blues. The Blues just are like always mediocre, I feel, since their cup win. Mediocre.
Since their cup win. Well, I mean, with the Blackhawks, I mean, is your confidence in them, is it mainly because of the TJ Brody ad?
No.
Is that what's doing it for you?
No, but I don't mind the Bertuzzi ad. I think Bedard is only going to get better. I think that they have some assets that could click well together, and they have some assets they're continuing to appreciate. So,
agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Chicago has enough to move up. So I could easily see them. I just like what Utah did. Utah improved quite a bit as well. Young up and coming team. But for me, it's very close there.
Absolutely.
To flip Utah and Chicago wouldn't be a very difficult sell.
No, but I think it looks great. The other notable spot probably is that you put the Kraken at number 9 and you put the Wild at number 8. So again, you have the Kraken out of a playoff spot, which after years of playoff success, like that's definitely something that I think a player like Brandon Montour, who's signed with the Kraken now, is might be able to bridge that playoff gap. And
Yeah.
I think Brandon is especially strong playoff player.
Mm-hmm.
Physical defenseman, plays a lot of minutes. He's
sure.
somebody that probably wanted to go to a team that would be competitive. And I guess he's hoping that he can make that difference in the regular season.
I mean, he probably also wanted the $7.25 million they threw his way.
Yeah,
he probably didn't mind that. He probably saw that first.
Seattle, not no tax.
Right. Yeah, it was that was a surprise that he actually chose to go there, but I guess he believes in what they're doing. Although I think Seattle not like it's a lower state tax, I believe, is it not? Like, it's definitely not one of the higher tax states. I think that was what I was hearing on Montour.
But it's not a no tax state.
Right. Okay. Yeah, like I think Seattle, I mean, I like their blue line. Worry about their goaltending.
For sure.
Forward group is just okay. They did add Chandler Stevenson. That should help.
True. Good point.
Yeah, they overpaid him as well. But hey, he's a pretty good two-way forward. Not a bad guy to have in the mix. So yeah, Seattle, Minnesota, I could easily see a flip there. I think the surprise for me was that I kept LA out. Like LA's been.
Wow, you did. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. Like it would be tempting to put them into the 8th spot to see them lose to Edmonton a 4th year in a row. But I think I probably saved King fans from that thought. Yeah, great. Yeah. We're going to make it an 8th and play Edmonton. Yeah, I can't wait for that one.
No, I should have brought that up for sure. They are like the Leafs, first round dwellers. Like they are again and again. I would say the Predators are there too. The Kings, the Leafs.
Up until now, yep.
Who else can we put in that first round dwelling spot?
Did you say Jets?
The Jets, but the Jets I think did more last season, did they not?
No, they were out in round 1 to Colorado.
Last year too?
Oh, you're saying like, I guess 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
Did the Jets get to round 2? They might have. I can't remember. So long ago.
I feel like they are a team that I don't bet against in the playoffs.
It's the goaltending. Hellebuck, even though he was terrible,
team.
But yeah, they do. For me, I just hate that they didn't do anything.
They didn't do anything.
I just hate they didn't do anything.
They're in that unique position of having a shitty tax situation plus a bad location.
Yeah. So there's nobody who wants to play there.
Nobody's
there's no way to sugarcoat
that. Let me go. Unless you're like, I don't know, a Nordiques lifer. Didn't they kind of don't they have a relationship with Winnipeg?
What would have been Quebec. Well, Quebec turned into Colorado. Quebec was Colorado, became Colorado. Winnipeg became Phoenix. And so
that's right. So unless you're like a hang-on Colorado Phoenix guy, Arizona guy, maybe you want to go play in the Jets organization.
Yeah. I think that's it's a tough argument. I don't think there's too many of that will actually say, because of the connection with Phoenix or Arizona, I'll play in Winnipeg. Like, I just haven't heard any player, and even current players say like, I wouldn't have thought I wanted to play in Winnipeg, but man, I'm 12 years in and I love it. Like you won't ever hear that, I don't think.
No, I don't know. But the guys in Edmonton can't speak enough good things about Edmonton. So if you can like stretch that to the Winnipeg market, I can't be much worse in Winnipeg.
Well, hold on. Are they speaking good things about Edmonton because they went to a cup final?
No,
or are they saying, I love hanging around Edmonton where...
No, they talk about the long days and then the ice district, the dining and the atmosphere around hockey.
The dining? I didn't know.
It's hyperbolic. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not limited to the city itself. It's always connected to a hockey narrative. So, of course, they're going to benefit from the best player in the world and, one of the best other players in the world being in that market. So.
For sure. Yeah. Like, I'd love to see, like, not that I wish this on the fan base, but if Draisaitl and McDavid leave, I'd love to see how many players sign there.
Let's hope that they do. That would make things a lot more exciting in Toronto, I think. But you know what?
Sure.
On that note, I think they're both going to resign.
You do? Wow.
Yeah.
I don't think we have enough time to unpack that one, but that's kind of wow. Both of them are re-signing.
Well, I think that like Draisaitl's negotiations are hinging. McDavid's negotiations will hinge on Draisaitl, and I think both of them have signaled that they want to stay for the long term. Like, are you thinking that they're going to wait until the end of next season to make those decisions? If they win the cup, then they both don't resign?
Yeah, I mean, maybe for Leon, that's kind of, he wants to wait it out and see, like, okay, are we able to take, like, if Edmonton loses in round 1 next year and Draisaitl hasn't signed yet, I think he's gone. Okay. Because I think her figure that, okay, we had a magical run 2 years ago. We didn't make it back now. What is going to tell me that we can do it again without signing any premier free agents, like top free agents? And as we just talked about, like Winnipeg, I don't know if any big time free agent is signing long-term in Edmonton unless they know Draisaitl and McDavid are already there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. I think you're right. This was a bigger bullet to unpack than right now, but
huge can of worms.
Let's jump in here.
Yeah, so we've got the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
So top to bottom, here we go. I've got number 1, New York Rangers, 2, Florida, 3, Carolina, 4, Boston, 5, Toronto. Can't wait for that Boston-Toronto round 1 matchup again. 6, New Jersey, 7, Tampa, 8, Buffalo. Those are my playoff teams. Then starting with the non-playoff teams, at 9, Washington, 10, Detroit, 11, the New York Island. 11 New York Islanders, 12 Ottawa, 13 Philly, 14 Pittsburgh, 15 Montreal, 16 Columbus.
Well,
I feel this one's a little bit more controversial, right?
Yeah, it is. Okay. I think that your top 3 are the same as things ended this season. No?
Overall, Boston may have been ahead of Carolina, maybe, but we're talking about like a couple of points either way. But yeah, that was essentially your top 3.
You've definitely juiced New Jersey. They've moved up. And I thought you might have put the Sabres ahead of the Lightning based on how you were talking about them, but
no, I felt that would be a little bit too controversial. Like, not only are you finding a way to get Buffalo in, you're saying they're going to get into 7? Wow. So I kind of went a little bit like sort of sitting on the fence. They're sneaking. Yeah.
Well, it looks a lot in my head like how it should look. Like, so the Islanders are not in the playoff position anymore. Capitals, neither. The Flyers are way down.
And I think a lot of people would say, based on what Washington did in the offseason, that doesn't make sense, right? Well, they made it last year. They improved, so therefore they're in. Well, sure, but New Jersey improved too. It's not as easy as, you improved and you were already good last year. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think this looks good in my head. I would like to see some new playoff meat from the East.
Yeah.
I would love to see.
Not sure we're getting much of it, but yeah.
I know, it'll be interesting.
We need it.
I sure hope we don't have to play Boston again in the first round.
Or Florida. Like, can we just find a way to be the first place team in the Atlantic? Probably not. But even if we can't do that, just fall to the wild card.
Just fall to the
wild card so we can play the Rangers. Yeah.
What's up, Carolina?
Yeah. I mean, at least I can justify taking either a road trip or quick flight to New York for a playoff game. I don't want Boston anymore.
I don't either. I don't want Florida either.
No, I don't want Florida either. Yeah, I think we just have to ask for permission to leave the Atlantic. That's the only way.
I think that in years they might look at a conference division realignment. Like, it's getting stale. It is getting stale. The same teams again and again.
Yeah. Or just
I've
switch
also
up the playoff like alignment where it's back to like 1-8-2-7 as opposed to
love that.
within division.
That's
But
great.
Gary Bettman loves
why
his
not?
rivalries. Loves
Why
his
not?
rivalries.
Well, another thing I've read, Josh, is that they might actually expand the playoff format. Like, I think the AHL playoff format went up to 24 teams.
Yeah, I think they did. I wasn't really paying too close attention, but yeah, I think they did add
Recently?
teams. And then the NBA does their play-in. So I
Yeah.
think they like the idea of giving some of these, like, you know, kind of on the verge playoff teams like Buffalo, Detroit, give them a chance to win one game and you're in type thing.
Yeah. And we're obviously augmenting the format of the NHL. We've added new teams. Well, we added Seattle.
Seattle was at 32.
So we went up to 32. But
Yeah.
say we do tack on a few more franchises, that would merit, I think, like a bit of a
For sure.
discussion.
Yeah, like I think when
16,
you're a
18
32
maybe.
Totally. Like when you're a 32 team league, I can't get behind like making more than half your teams make it.
Me
So I don't
neither.
like the idea of adding more teams in, but
Me
maybe
neither.
you have like exactly what the NBA does, where you're
Yeah, a
7
plan.
through 10 teams are your play-in. So you
Yeah.
give 2 teams essentially one playoff game, play-in game
Yeah.
to give them a chance to get into the main bracket. But I don't want to just automatically qualify 2 additional teams in each conference. Not ready for that.
No, but I am ready for a playoff realignment of sorts.
We need it. We need it.
I mean,
Yeah.
They're going to see
Right.
again if it's this year Boston, Toronto, Tampa coming out of that conference. Yeah, we're not going to want to see the same.
And we know it will be. And I guess the you know, the optimal kind of thought for Bettman and the owners, like, yeah, rivalries will be renewed. Well, that's all well and good if you have Montreal and Ottawa actually making the playoffs and Detroit making it.
Great point.
And Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
Like, I'd love to see Pittsburgh and Philly battle of Pennsylvania.
absolutely.
But I don't think we're going to be having any of the same conversations when those 2 teams make the playoffs again.
No,
Like,
that'll be different.
yeah.
Toronto or
So-
Boston won't be in it. Well, Boston probably will be in it. Toronto won't be in it.
Yeah. You think we're going to go into a tank mode at some point? I honestly think like Boston, Toronto, Rangers, they're just going to keep retooling.
Well, big time. I think big
Like,
time.
I don't think they're going into tank mode. I think they're
No,
too,
me neither. But
the ownership, the fan base, too demanding. I think they're going to be like, okay, we've got to at least sell playoff tickets. So if you're not going to
if
have
Toronto
Austin
doesn't
Matthews
hit while
back, sign
Matthews
someone
is in
else.
town, that's going to come with a new strategy.
It totally might. Like, I worry what happens post Matthews era. But if he does leave, then are you not just signing the next best free agent?
That's what's the beauty of the cap era, to be honest, and to
Right?
be a Toronto Maple Leafs team, is that
Totally.
we're not going to ever have to suffer through dark days of like draft rebuilding.
Yeah, the only thing we have to
pay
suffer-
players because we have such huge contracts locked up. But I don't know. I would almost rather acknowledge that this plan failed and then go
Right.
through the long rebuilding. That
Yeah, sometimes
may
I feel
have to
that way
come
too.
with this.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Like, yeah, there's for sure appeal. I think where the devil's advocate in me would say, like, yeah, it would be exciting to be able to be like Chicago and know you just drafted Bedard, San Jose, Celebrini. But have a look at what the Canadians, Columbus, Ottawa, take it to the other conference, even Anaheim. All these teams haven't been in the playoffs for a long time.
Yeah.
And their fan bases keep seeing them draft in the top 5, top 3. And it's like, okay, it's coming. Here we go. Here we go. But no, unless you get that Celebrini, that Bedard, that Matthews, that McDavid, like you're not getting to the playoffs by drafting a Juraj Slavkovsky. Clearly not.
Look at how many times it took for Oilers to strike gold. On
Good point.
No?
Yeah, how many first overalls did they bust on? I mean, so it's like you can ask for it, but yeah, you got to be careful what you ask for, because if you get 5 years in a row of the ping pong balls not falling your way, and it's like, ooh, there's only 3 franchise type players in the draft, and we're picking 4th. Fantastic. Fantastic. See you again next year. So it's tough.
Yeah.
All right. Well, very good. I appreciate you kind of co-piloting that and making me feel that I'm not crazy for some of my hedging on some teams.
The graphics look great, and it makes me more excited for the season to start. I'm so done with off season.
I know.
All of my favorite leagues. It's been very slow in sports.
Yeah, and that ain't going to change anytime soon. There's not much going on.
I have to make my picks for the Open Championship. Do you have any thoughts on that? Really quick.
I haven't done my research yet. I was actually planning on doing that tonight, so I can definitely throw you over a couple sort of underdogs or long shots.
So no rush. Okay. No worries.
Yeah, because for me with my golf picks, it's always like trying to find that long shot who maybe hasn't had a top 10 finish in 10 tournaments, but oh boy, he can putt well. And if you can putt well, you have a chance in this tournament. So I always like finding those guys, but it never pans out. My golf bets.
Well, they say that the Open is the champion maker. So it's like an easier draw. It's an easier tournament typically. So people outside of the top 20 often come in the top 3. So I'm doing the same.
So you're saying a hard yes to Tiger makes the cut then?
I friggin' hope not. But he's opening with Morikawa and like Justin Thomas. Like it's a pretty. Ooh. Of course, he gets a great group.
Yeah, I'm sure it's random too. Yeah.
I don't think so. I'm so annoyed of.
There's no chance it is. No way.
Yeah. Well, anyway, thank you so much for this. I know it was a slow news week, but I think we provided the entertainment.
Going to pick up. Totally. Yeah. It's going to pick up. It's coming. Big news dropping this weekend for sure. It better happen. Better happen. Better happen by Tuesday.
I hope so.
All right, guys. Appreciate you tuning in. Drop us a comment if you have any feedback for us and anything you heard and saw today. We'd love to hear from you. And we'll be back next Wednesday, 9 p.m. for more Leafs Unfiltered. Have a good one, guys.
Bye.